we're gonna go over how to mix your lightener at home in your bathroom, and then I'll touch on a couple different ratios or the amount of developer you need. Lightener needs developer to work. You always wanna refer to the manufacturer's directions, usually on the back, for the mixing ratio. A ratio is just the amount of bleach for the amount of developer. The first number always represents the amount of lightener that you're going to use. The second number is going to refer to the amount of developer I need to mix in that formula. So for this ratio, 1:1, this is saying I need 1 part bleach to 1 part developer. That can be a tablespoon of bleach to a tablespoon of developer. It could also be this Tresemme hairspray cap, 1 Tresemme hair cap of bleach, 1 Tresemme hair cap of developer. Doesn't matter what device you're using, it's equal parts. A 1:2 is saying I need 1 part bleach because it's the first number to 2 parts developer. 1:3 is 1 part lightener, 3 parts developer. I went over how to use the scale in a hair color video. I'm not gonna go over that again because it's probably the least common when you're talking about coloring your hair at home. You can use anything to measure. Just remember, whatever I use to measure the bleach, I'm also going to use to measure the developer. It needs to be the same tool, apparatus, device, whatever. My favorite at-home tool to use, the TBSP. This particular lightener doesn't give you a ratio on the back. Most of the time it'll say 1:1, 1:2, 1:3. This one just says mix it with developer. But if a lightener doesn't say or you're unsure, you're always going to use a 1:2 ratio. So 1 part bleach to 2 parts developer. 2 parts of the clingy boyfriend. That's gonna look like this. Just like you would measure flour when you're baking, yeehaw. 1 TBSP, make sure it's flat or leveled. Is that what they call it in baking? Leavened? I don't know. It doesn't have a mountain on it. In the Tupperware container. Just like hair color, you do not want to use a metal or metallic bowl. It needs to be plastic. This Tupperware is great. You can get, I think, 4 of these for $1 at the Dollar Tree. Any kind of plastic will work. So if you don't have a hair color bowl, just use Tupperware. We're gonna take the brush and break this up because sometimes it's kind of chunky. You want this to be very fine, kind of like when you're sifting flour before you bake. You're supposed to sift the flour, you know, I don't ever do that. But you're supposed to sift the flour so there's no chunks. It makes a fluffier cake. This is kind of our redneck version of sifting our hair bleach. Just give it a little tappity tappity slappity slappity. So this is 1 TBSP. If I'm doing a 1:2 ratio, I'm going to do 2 TBSPs of my developer. The developer looks like this. 1 in the kitty. 2. And you're gonna carefully just mix this together. You can use a whisk if you want, or your hair color brush. You just wanna make sure it's mixed really well. Again, just like baking. So a 1:2 ratio will look something similar to this, kind of like a royal icing. It's not flying off the brush. That way when you apply it, it's not slipping out of foils, leaking everywhere. You want it to be a thicker consistency. Same thing applies to lightener that we talked about with hair color. This needs to be used right away. The longer this sits out and oxidizes, when the air hits it, it's going to start swelling and puffing up. It's gonna turn into like a marshmallow fluff, but not really. You ever seen that air clay? It's kind of like that. I don't know if you've seen that. It's clay that has air in it. Well, air clay, I don't know. It will expand, okay? It will expand. It's also going to expand when it gets on your scalp. Anytime lightener interacts with air or heat from the room, heat from your scalp is naturally radiating heat. It's going to cause this to swell up. Another reason why you want this to be a little bit on the thicker side, because obviously when something heats up, it kind of melts it a little bit. If you've ever had a highlight that had a tiger stripe, which is just these little stair step things, that's because the lightener was placed too close to the foil line, and when it swelled up and kind of liquefied a little bit due to the heat of the room, the heat of the scalp, whatever's going on, it leaked out of the foil, giving you a tiger stripe. How to avoid that is to move further down on the foil line, and instead of applying the lightener like this, horizontal, you're gonna do vertical, staggered line. So even if that does happen, it's not a complete line, it's more of a grass line. That's an example of a 1:2 ratio. 1:2 is going to be your most common. If you're unsure, the package doesn't say, you're always going to use a 1:2 ratio. If you need help picking your developer, you can check out the developer video. That will explain the 10, 20, 30, and 40 and when you're going to use those. When we're talking about ratios, you can pick between 1:1, 1 part bleach, 1 part developer, 1:2, 1 part bleach, 2 parts developer, or 1:3, 1 part bleach, 3 parts developer. You would use a 1-to-1 for maximum lift. So 1-to-1 is the most powerful. A 1-to-2 ratio, again, is the most common and is perfect for on the scalp applications. If you have dark roots that you want to touch up, you're going to use a cream lightener, which I would recommend this one. I'll link it below. This is from Sally's. It is a cream-based lightener, so it's safe for the scalp. So 1-to-2 ratio, that's the go-to. It's in the middle, most common. 1-to-3 ratio, which is 1 tablespoon of lightener, 3 tablespoons of developer. That's gonna be your go-to if you have extremely damaged hair, blondes, especially if you're kind of running it through the ends and it's damaged already, weak hair, very fine, thin hair. 1-to-3 is gonna be the perfect ratio for those scenarios. Hope that helps. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them below, and also be sure to check out my main channel. It's Brittnee Alexus. I'll also link that below. It is an entertainment channel if you're looking for some funnies on a Sunday.